You know, if there is one biblical character who should be emulated by our altar servers in the church, it is none other than the young Samuel in today's first reading. I still remember the orientation that I got when I first got involved in the ministry of altar servers as a very young boy. The master server kept repeating instructions like, be attentive, stay focused, remain alert, etc. Akala ko it was quite easy until I experienced serving in an actual Sunday Mass and the church was full. It felt different when I stood there by the altar. I suddenly became very self-conscious and I thought that all my acquaintances, relatives, and townmates were looking at me. I am sure you have seen some very funny videos, some of them really actual videos, of altar servers in the church and the kind of bloopers that they sometimes commit while they are serving at Mass. There was this boy, for example, who was serving in what looked like a Simbang Gabi Mass. He must have felt very sleepy while the priest was reading the gospel, and he was holding the candle right in front of him. He began to nod his head too closely to the candle fire that he burned his hair. And the priest had the presence of mind to tap his head like that, both to turn off the fire and to wake him up. There was this other altar server who washed the hands of the priest with wine instead of water. Oh, most of the bloopers have to do with the incensing. There was this altar server who loved to exaggerate, swinging the censer until it ignited and the fire caught his surplice. And another server who rang the bell for consecration when it was only the offertory part. You know, these bloopers are bound to happen if the server is not yet very well trained and has not yet developed the discipline of attentiveness and alertness to the needs of the presider at the altar. We heard from our first reading today that Samuel had been dedicated to the temple from the time that he was a very little boy. Obviously, through time, he had developed the discipline which our Boy Scouts in the Philippines would call laging handa, always ready and disposed to be of service. Samuel said, "Here I am, you called me." Tatlong beses. 3 times he ran to the priest, Eli, in the middle of the night because he had heard his name being called. And by the way, the Latin is ad sum. It is the same response given by the candidate for ordination when he is presented, when he is called and presented before the Christian community. Nitong huli, medyo binago nila, sinimplify yung response, and the candidate would just say, when his name is called, present. Pero ako, honestly, I prefer the more traditional, here I am. And according to our first reading, it was not until the 3rd time that Samuel came and said, "Here I am," that the old priest realized that the boy was actually being called by God. And it was then that he taught him to say, the next time you hear the call, just say, "Speak, Lord, your servant is listening." Meaning, more than having to pay attention to the old priest's call, well, the boy had been taught the more essential discipline of paying attention to God, to God's call, and having the alertness and the proper disposition to respond immediately. And that is how the prophetic vocation and mission of Samuel began. You see, even if prophecy is about proclaiming the message of God, the most essential component of the prophet's ministry is not really the proclaiming, but the listening. How can he relay God's message if he has not, first of all, listened carefully to what God is asking him to proclaim? Para hong ako, what am I going to proclaim to you if I don't have coffee with God or with Jesus very early in the morning every day? Sometimes, though, there are really circumstances that can affect the quality of our attentiveness. Like, syempre, when we're not feeling well, or when we are bothered by many concerns. Eh, ba'y talagang mahihirapang maglingkod ang isang taong tuliro o wala sa sarili? You might keep on saying, huh? What were you saying again? Or you might end up saying what you were not asked to say, or doing what you were not asked to do. In the Gospel, Mark says, as soon as Jesus laid hands on Peter's mother-in-law, the old woman stood up and she waited on them, meaning she served them. She was ready to serve again. What is the point in asking God to cure us of our illnesses or to restore us from being unwell, if not to regain our sense of mission and purpose in life, or our capacity to be of service to others again? I'm sure you know that Samuel's answer was made into a song, a liturgical song. And it is a more elaborate version of the priest Eli's instruction to the young boy when he heard God calling him again. And the lyrics of the song, the refrain part says, "Here I am, Lord. Is it I, Lord? I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, if you need me. I will hold your people in my heart."